Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Warrior Stories podcast, where we deep dive into the unique health journeys of everyday people like you and me. Health is so often taken for granted, but it is not the default setting for a lot of us. So that's why we are here to encourage people to keep fighting, to keep searching for answers, and we want people to know that they're not alone. If that resonates with you at all, be sure to click the follow or subscribe button, depending on where you are watching or listening from. That way you always know whenever we have a new episode out. Now, today we have Marnie Clark with us. Marnie is the host of the Meet Me in Isaiah podcast. She is a Myers-Briggs practitioner, which I don't know about anybody else. I think that is fascinating. And she's the producer of the Beacon People podcast. She is a wife and mother who loves to travel, and she loves to be physically active. Even as we were emailing back and forth in preparation for today, she was headed on vacation to go hiking. So when I say she likes physical activity, she genuinely does. But that's also why it was so heartbreaking when Marnie started developing physical symptoms that affected her mobility. After multiple doctors and tests revealed nothing wrong with her, she just kept pushing through. She really wanted to continue living that active lifestyle, and we can't blame her. We love to see it. We love an active lifestyle. It wasn't until her personal trainer asked her if she had ever heard of breast implant illness that she was put on the path to recovery and to finding answers. Because that's one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with is just finding answers. It's not just, oh, I feel sick, I want to feel better. It's why. And that was something that she really had to fight for. And it was just a little moment of grace that her trainer was like, have you heard of this? So she had her breast implants removed earlier this year, I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And she's now recovering and spreading awareness about this very misunderstood illness, which is so necessary. Thank you so much for joining us, Marnie. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Hannah. I'm just so excited to be here, and I have been bursting at the seams to be able to share and spread awareness. So, thank you for allowing me to do that with you today.
Well, it's so spooky because I've had several friends who have talked about, potentially getting like breast augmentation or breast
Mm,
implants of some variety. It's a lot more common today, I think, than
yeah,
that it's ever been.
yeah.
Um, and none of them, because I asked a couple of them, are you worried about this? Have you talked to your doctor about this potential?
hmm
None of them had ever heard of it. And
Mm,
one of them did speak to their doctor about it. And I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I'm not trying to dog on anybody's profession or anything. Their doctor said it wasn't real.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's in my research. I'm coming up against a lot of stuff where some doctors are like, this absolutely is a thing. It should be taken very
Yeah.
seriously. And then other doctors are like, no, this is controversial. It's not real. So
Mm.
I'm thrilled to hear your story. I think
Well,
it's high time.
well, now when you have someone who asks you about it, you can send them the link to our story, to our
Oh, I will.
podcast.
I will.
Yes. So I am really surprised that I was surprised I didn't know about it. And I understand people maybe who don't have breast implants, but I had them. I had them for 21 years, and
Wow.
I honestly just didn't think much about it. There's a lot of different information out there about breast implants. When I had mine, I asked, they said they're not lifetime devices. They may fail in like 5 to 10 years. And so I said, well, how do I know when they fail? And he said, well, you'll know because one will just like deflate,
Oh my
and I was like, well, I mean, I'm in my 20s, and my number one thing, I'm not thinking about the health danger of it deflating in my body. I'm thinking about, oh, I hope I'm not like around my friends and all of a sudden going down. I'm like, ah. But yeah, I mean, so I was given no direction. So I
gosh.
didn't realize that at minimum, people need to have them replaced because they do start breaking down. And so just to take everyone back to the beginning, I
Sure.
so appreciate your beautiful introduction, and you really covered a lot of what I was going to say, which is that I am very active. Health is very important to me. I was in my 20s when I got breast implants, and really back then, exercise for me was all about looking a certain way. I mean, it really was. I mean, I would like to say it was because I was healthy, or maybe some of it was being competitive and wanting to win a race or whatever. But for the most part, it was really just about, and that's
Aesthetic.
that's 20s, too. I mean,
Yeah, I feel like
if
that's
you
pretty
don't
typical.
if you don't have other health concerns, you're probably not thinking about it. You just kind of take it for granted. Um, but as I went in my 30s, I still seemed to be okay. I picked up tennis, and I thought, wow. I mean, when I discovered tennis, it was like I had hit gold, because I loved running, but now it was like it was social, and I could be competitive, and it was great. And so I did that for a few years, and what I started noticing was I had the sweetest captain on the last team, and she just kept being so understanding that I kept having to call her at the last minute and cancel. And I was like, I don't want to miss this match. I love to play tennis, and but I would either just feel really, really sick, or like, and when I say really sick, like just like I was coming down with something, like
Mhm.
weak or exhausted, but I was having a lot of neck issues. And so I would play tennis, and then my neck would hurt, sometimes my back. I would like throw my neck out. And things just felt a little off. But I'm like, okay, well, I just told everybody, well, maybe my body doesn't like tennis. That's fine. I'm going to concentrate on running, and I'm going to concentrate on weightlifting. I really put that to the wayside. I was a personal trainer years ago when I was in my 20s for a brief time. But I was like, I know that I need to be lifting weights. And so I try to get back to that. And then it was kind of like, running doesn't feel too good anymore. Let me try walking. And then it was so gradual until it's like one day I'm waking up going, I feel like I'm 90 years old. Like my
Mhm.
joints are aching, like I'm hurting walking up my stairs, and I am just breaking my neck to try to be healthy. I'm trying to do all the things. And so
Just
I'm
an
going,
uphill battle.
did not help. Yeah. And so it was like I'm sitting here going, what else do I do? I really felt, I'd always told my husband, I'm like, I feel like I have an autoimmune disorder. Like I just really feel like I do.
That's what that
And
sounds
a lot. Yeah. I was like, I just couldn't feel well. And I would have times where I did feel okay. But as the years went on, I never felt good. And I was just like struggling to make it through the day. The best way to explain it is like having a mild case of the flu, like just
no
feeling
energy, aches and pains.
no energy, aches and pains. It was very confusing during COVID, because I'm always like, am
Oh
I getting
gosh.
COVID?
Oh
Like,
no.
yeah, I just didn't know. And I was constantly taking COVID tests, but which I never tested positive for COVID. Thank the Lord. But yeah, so I didn't know what it was. And honestly, I was at the point, like you said in the beginning, I just wanted answers.
Yeah.
And as sad as it would have been if someone had told me you have XYZ, whatever it was, I would have had some sense of relief. I might have been sad, but I'm somebody, I love making people happy. I just do. I love being there for people. I don't like to cancel things. And it really was hard, because I had to learn that, you know, sometimes I just had to, and that was the hardest part. So I got to the point I was like, I really don't know what else to do. And I'm trying to think. Well, let me go back and tell you a few of my other symptoms. I was
Sure,
getting a
yeah.
lot of swelling, just because this might be helpful for somebody. But my
Absolutely.
hands and feet would swell. Um, just like my joints would swell. I thought, well, maybe I have rheumatoid arthritis. So I went to a
Yeah.
rheumatologist. Yeah. And
That's what
so,
that sounds like.
yeah, he's like, no, you have no autoimmune issues. You do not have rheumatoid arthritis, and so there was that. But I really got to the point where I felt really despondent. And it has given me a lot of empathy for people who deal with chronic health issues because, before I was this, just do it, it's like, I was
Can-do
just
attitude.
yeah, just do it. And, if you're not feeling well, then, just get out there and exercise. Well, sometimes it's severe. And so that's where it landed for me. And I have a journal. I have a prayer journal that I write in very frequently. And one day, and I had certainly prayed about this, like, God, I need answers. I need answers. But I was just really sad. This one particular, and I know exactly what day it was because I was in my journal. And I recommend journaling to so many people. I know some people don't like to write, and I'm like, it's so helpful to go back
It's
and look.
very cathartic.
Very cathartic, and it helps you remember. We forget things, so. Especially with the brain fog, there was one symptom.
Yeah. That'll do it.
Yeah, brain fog, hands, swelling, tired, flu, all that. Neck and shoulder, my right shoulder, the whole right side of my body was very tight. And it just felt like I couldn't stretch it out. I had gone to PT, and the girl working on me was like, something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. You feel like you have an autoimmune issue, just the way that like fibromyalgia or something. She's like pushing on your body, but I don't know what it is. And so anyway, so last year, I can't believe it's just been last year, but August 10th, 2022, I literally listed my symptoms in my prayer journal. And I said, God, I was like, in fact, I was thinking about, there was an account in Mark 5 in the Bible, and it talks about this woman who was bleeding for 12 years. And it says literally in this account, it says she had been to doctors. She spent everything she had, and it didn't get better. She only got worse. Yeah, that's how I feel. And so I wrote my prayer journal, and in that account, she reaches for it says the hem of Jesus's garment. And she felt that if she could only touch his garment, she's like, I just believe I'm going to be well. And so I wrote down my symptoms, and I was like, okay, I'm serious this time. I'm like, I'm praying. I'm like, okay, I'm serious this time.
Real deal.
I need your help. I mean, I was crying out. I was just upset. And I said, and I wrote in my journal, I said, Jesus, I am reaching for the hem of your garment. I need you to heal me. And so back up a little bit. The last couple of years, I've been personal training with the most wonderful, caring, competent personal trainer. She has become a very dear friend of mine. But I had a training scheduled with her like 2 hours after I wrote that in my journal.
I feel like that stuff just happened. Like sometimes you just give it up to the universe, to grace, and then something just happens right afterwards.
Oh, I was like, here it is. I surrender. And so, but yeah, and so I went, and we just did kind of our regular like personal training session. We were chatting at the end. And we started talking and just about other things, not even about health, but I was talking about something and talking about vanity. I was like, I spend so much money on, whatever this and that and Botox. Because I was talking about, I'm such I love going to consignment shops. And I was kind of just like talking about how much fun that is. I love to save money, and I'm so good at saving money. And then I said, well, but when it comes to like Botox or skincare, and I was like, well, I did. And I go, well, I did spend all that money on breast implants. And she just like, her eyes got big, and and I was thinking, well, it's not that weird. I have breast implants. Why is she looking at me like that?
This episode of the Warrior Stories podcast is made possible by Haka Life Nutrition. Haka Life Nutrition believes in a whole body health approach, from a strong mindset, making smart food choices, encouraging daily exercise, and supporting your body with quality supplements. Haka Life Nutrition produces quality of life supplements that support your joint health, support your muscles, keep your heart healthy, and keep your brain active. Head to hakalife.com/warrior to learn more and get exclusive discounts. That's hakalife.com/warrior. All right, now let's get back to the good stuff.
But she was like, "You have breast implants?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she said, "Have you ever heard of breast implant illness?" And I was like, "No." She- and it was really neat because I really just felt at that moment there was a special knowing. It was like, you know, I knew that was it. I mean, in that moment. And it's hard to describe to somebody, and somebody's like, "Oh, you're crazy." It helped for sure that I had journaled about it, and it just felt like such a confirmation. But when she said that, it was just like I knew, and I started, I mean, just like tearing up because it was like, this is it.
This is the
And
answer.
this is the answer. And so my initial thing was, oh, okay, well, no worries. Like, there's probably time to get them changed out anyway, whatever. I'll go get them changed out. She's like, no, no, like, you probably, I mean, most people don't get better unless they have them out and keep them
Mm-hmm.
out. And so I'm like, okay. Like, just wondering, my initial thing is, what am I going to look like? Am I going to look like, I would have been fine to look like I did before I got them, but I'm like, my body's changed. What is it? What is all this going to be? So, but honestly, I was so desperate to feel better. I didn't care. I
Yeah.
mean, I did not care. And what is so interesting about the story is that she had a friend who was a personal trainer who was kind and brave enough to share her story out there on social media. And so that's how my trainer knew about it. And she just kept feeling like, and she is also a believer, a Christian, and she was like, I just kept feeling like the Lord was wanting me to say something to you about this. Like, but she's like, she didn't think I had them because mine were not very obvious, and so she was just like, I can't say anything to her, but she finally did when I said something to her. I mean, that's why it was just like she was in shock that was what it was. And it took me a few months. I really did do my due diligence, although I knew that I knew, but it's kind of like, okay, well, but let me just make sure. And so I did
Do
a
some
lot of
research
research,
and
did a
yeah.
lot of research. And one of the most wonderful things that she sent me was a link to a Facebook group, and I believe it's called Breast Implant Illness Healing Breast Implant Illness Healing. I'm
I
sorry,
think
wait.
that's it. I
Breast
looked it up.
Implant Illness Healing. Wait a minute, I wrote it down. It's by Nicole. Yeah, Breast Implant Illness Healing. Anyway, yeah, Breast Implant Illness by Nicole. So, at that point, and I don't know how many women are in it now, but there were like 175,000 women in this group.
And all of them were just dealing with this illness, and there's just no information out there. That is so
Oh
wild.
my goodness. And all these women are just like, I'm reading what people are saying, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's me. That's me. That's me. But I didn't understand. I'm like, why? What? Like, why? And I don't understand it completely, but I do know a little bit about that. Some people's bodies don't want them in there. They
Yep.
just are fighting them. It's like a foreign object, causes inflammation. Um, Other people are fine for a while, but then they start breaking down in your body. And mine were saline. So, I was told, oh, they're safe, they're saline, but all of them have um, a silicone lining.
Hmm.
And so then when the silicone starts breaking down with age, it can migrate around your body and cause all sorts of toxicity. Um, Implants are made out of lots of heavy metals. I mean, this is
Oh,
just
I didn't
stuff.
realize that.
Oh my goodness. It's like they're just made of different toxins. And so, on top of that, when I finally did reach the surgeon that I ultimately used, who was wonderful, and I traveled to go see him in another state, he said immediately, he said, your implants have been displaced.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
they had moved in my body. And so they had moved to either side. And I didn't realize it, but what was happening. And I don't know how to explain the effect it would have on your body, but like you think about if you're walking around, maybe you put your phone under your arm or something and you're
Mhm.
walking, and you're trying to do something, it's like you're going to have neck pain and shoulder pain. And so they were just in the wrong place. And my body was just off. It just didn't know what to do. And so I was having all these autoimmune issues. And he said, he's like, I think you will get, I expected him to say, I can't guarantee. And of course, you can't guarantee. But he said, I believe it was in the 90 something percent of his patients get better that have the
Wow,
explant surgery.
that is huge.
Yeah. And he's been doing a long time. He's just very good on documenting everything. But yeah, so I had the surgery January 10th,
Congratulations.
2023. Thank you. And it was it's a big surgery. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a big surgery.
Well, and it,
So,
it changes the shape of your body, and
yeah,
that's emotional. Even without just the trauma of going under and having a surgery, you wake up with a new body.
yeah.
So that's intense.
I have read in that group a lot of women do struggle with that. Um, I I didn't, and I don't know why. I think I was so happy to be well. It was like I was just so happy to be well. My trainer asked me that. She's like, "Was that hard?" And I was like, "Honestly, I quit getting Botox, which I'm not telling people not to get Botox, but I'm trying to detox everything out of my body after all of this, and so I'm not doing that." And I'm like, that is so much harder for me. Like, I
You're
love
staring at
the
your face
Botox.
all day, so
Yeah, exactly. So honestly, that wasn't hard for me, but it is a struggle for a lot of women. And, and I had a lift and all this stuff to just, to be completely honest, just to make things look more back how they were before.
yeah.
Because your body changes over 21
A-
years, and then all of a sudden
Aging
those are
is
gone.
it's a whole thing.
Aging's a bear, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I did find some pretty immediate relief. I mean, I was recovering from
Good.
surgery. I'd say about 10 days out, and that's when I did record a podcast with my trainer. And I was on there with her, and I'm like, oh, I have all this energy, and oh my God. Like I was just like freaking out, excited. And I do have that at times, but what happens is they said this, and I'm so glad they prepared me for this in the group, is that a couple of months you feel really, really good, and then your body's like, the inflammation is lower. I can start detoxing. And
Ooh.
so, yeah, so all this stuff that's been in my body for 21 years, it feels like, and I'm not really sure yet, but it kind of seems like every few weeks I will get really, really tired,
Mm.
sleepy, like, you know, just
Just feeling kind of
sometimes feeling
crummy.
a little queasy, feeling kind of crummy. Um, but then it goes away. And then I'm like, okay, I feel really good again.
That would be
Whereas before it was like I never felt good ever. So, yeah, so it is a process, and I'm having to be careful because I do like to be so active, and I have to remember my body is still rebuilding. I have to
mhm.
rebuild. I have to gradually lift weights, get stronger because I do have this right side of my body that is weak.
Mhm.
And the reason he explained that to me, and I didn't understand, I'm like, why is one side? But he said, just anatomically, like my chest wall, the left side of my chest wall is wider. And so it's just like he measured me, he said it's wider. And so there was more room when they displaced.
Oh,
And so
okay.
this side just kind of took the brunt of it and just kind of made me tight on this right side. So it's just so good to have answers. And it's such a needless thing. I mean, there's so many health issues that people deal with. I mean, I've listened to some of the guests that you've had and the things that people have endured. And it's like there's so much to endure that this is not necessary. this is not
Well,
necessary.
I feel though like it's still such an important thing to bring awareness to, because
Oh.
one of the things that I love so much about your story is you did all the quote unquote right things. You were
Hmm.
very active. You enjoyed being physically active,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was, for aesthetic purposes when you were in your 20s,
I
or
was
if
doing
it's
it.
yeah, or if it was just for the pure joy of being alive,
Yeah.
these last couple years.
Yeah.
You were doing all the right things to keep your body healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and still something comes out of left field and knocks you out. And so I feel like your story is so important for people who maybe don't have that empathy for those with chronic
Hmm.
illnesses, who
Yeah.
don't know what it's like
Yeah.
to all of a sudden not be healthy,
Yeah.
and especially your journey with just constantly feeling run down. Because it's one
Mm-hmm.
thing to feel tired and crummy and have brain fog, 1 or 2 days out of the week, or even,
Right.
even just a couple days a month, because you can kind of get over that. And you're like, well, I'll
Yeah.
rest today, and then I'll feel better tomorrow, and I'll get all my stuff done tomorrow. But when it's
Mm-hmm.
constant, the wear it has on your mental health, and
Yeah.
just that it breaks you down, and
Yeah.
then and not knowing why. So I feel like your story is such a lesson for everyone, because
Hmm.
you can do all the right things and something
Mm-hmm.
can still come at you, even if it's just like an injury or an implant that your immune system is just like, hey, we're not into this anymore. you know
We're done.
we're done with this. I think it's important for people to pay attention, and for people to just, give themselves grace,
Yeah.
and give other people grace as well. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, the emotional journey that you've been through. Um, and especially, just in the little bit of research that I did, I, and this is just my own personal bone to pick with the medical community, just having doctors argue that a diagnosis is controversial, or
Yeah.
that it's like, I saw that word over and over again. And I was like,
This is
what's so
very
controversial about it?
controversial.
Yeah. I'm like, is the controversy just that some doctors don't believe it's real, or that something about, and I'm not a medical professional, so correct me if I'm wrong, or someone comment down below and, tell me what I'm missing. Something about the procedure, like the explant procedure, because sometimes the
Mm-hmm.
body will encase the implant to
Oh,
try.
every
Oh,
time it
okay.
does. Yeah, it's
Oh,
just naturally what the body does is I'm glad you brought that up, is you have these like scar capsules
mhm.
that develop around. And so what it does is it basically, I can't believe I didn't say this. I'm so glad you said that. It can roll your shoulders forward. Like it messes up your posture because
Yeah, I remember
it's
reading that
like
about yours.
glue. It's like glue.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like your chest wall is so tight because of these capsules and some are worse than others. Mine were
Mhm.
just kind of normal, just what you would expect. Some people have horrible looking capsules, but everyone gets them. It's your body's way
Wow.
of protecting itself, I guess. But
Well, and one of the things that, because I had forgot, I read in, because you've had an article or two written about you. It talked about how the capsule was like pulling on your shoulder. And so
yeah,
I imagine that was a huge contributor to your neck and your shoulder and your side pain.
yeah,
So,
it is possible that that was part of what that was doing. Yeah, just that feeling of pulling for
mm,
sure. Yeah. So, but
a literal weight on
posture,
your shoulders.
a literal weight on my shoulders. Oh, and I forgot this. I did not realize I was not breathing well. Like I didn't realize this was all of a sudden I was like, I
Full
can
breath of
breathe.
air, just
I didn't know I wasn't breathing because they were like sitting like kind of
on
on
your
your
chest.
lips. I mean, it's like, and I'm like, oh, I can breathe. And that makes you tired when you're always trying to get a deep breath. But that
I
wasn't my
would.
primary complaint. I didn't even know it till after they were gone.
Oh, that's wild. That's
Hmm.
and it's because it's one of those, I think it's called an autonomic thing. So like you're not aware of your heart
Hmm.
beating, you're not aware of your
Yeah,
breathing.
yeah.
So like those little things that are slowly starting to decline that you might not notice at first. And then when
Oh,
you have that full lung capacity, I have terrible asthma. Like
oh
I,
gosh.
I so I
Ooh,
yeah, so I keep a handy dandy inhaler near me all the time.
good for
But that
you.
that feeling of that first full breath of air after
Yeah.
not, I can't imagine going that long without full lung
Hmm.
capacity. And then just
Well,
that emotional, like that
yeah.
breath. Oh, that breath of life. Oxygen,
Hmm.
man, that's the good stuff.
Yes, it's
You
so
you don't
good.
realize how good it is until you haven't had enough of it.
100%. 100%. And it's so funny. It's funny when people say it's controversial or it's this or like as someone, I'm like, I just know I'm better. And I know that hundreds of thousands of women are better. So, I mean, it kind of cracks me up. I mean, to think that someone would say it's controversial, that's fine.
Yeah.
They want
To
to say
each
it's
their own.
controversial, but they say that people have said that about autoimmune issues or, other things. Oh, well, ask the person who has it if it's real.
This episode of the Warrior Stories podcast is made possible by Haka Life Nutrition. Haka Life Nutrition believes in a whole body health approach, from a strong mindset, making smart food choices, encouraging daily exercise, and supporting your body with quality supplements. Haka Life Nutrition produces quality of life supplements that support your joint health, support your muscles, keep your heart healthy, and keep your brain active. Head to hakalife.com/warrior to learn more and get exclusive discounts. That's hakalife.com/warrior. All right, now let's get back to the good stuff.
I was very lucky, and I won't go into this too much just because this is your time, so I don't want to take away from your time.
No, please, I
Uh,
want to hear.
well, so you said you went to a rheumatologist, and
Hmm.
in my experience, I've been so incredibly lucky with my rheumatologist.
Hmm.
Um, he, the first time I went to see him, he was very straightforward with me. He was like, you have so many symptoms of autoimmune issues, your
Hmm.
labs are not conclusive. But
Mm.
and so I'm still in the boat of just trying to find answers.
Oh, wow.
But the thing that he did that just moved me to tears was he said, I'm willing to still fight for you and work with you for the next decade if it takes that long, because I want to improve your quality of
Oh,
life. And he was like, it may
wow.
take so long to find answers, but let's just work on you feeling better. And I never had like a specialist doctor really do that before. And it just made the biggest difference, just having somebody in my corner who was like, we want you to feel better. We don't have the answers
Wow.
yet, but let's get you feeling better. And it's
Wow.
it's been a 180. It's, just having
Mm.
somebody who is like, well, since, you don't have the labs that support this, we don't know for sure, so it's not really happening. That gaslighting, that this
Yeah.
isn't what's really going on. Because I have quite a few friends in, the autoimmune community or the chronic illness community. And I've heard so many horror stories of people going from doctor to doctor to
Yeah.
doctor, and just, one doctor says they have one thing, another doctor says they have something else, and then another doctor just says, this is all in your head, you're just attention seeking, this isn't real. So yeah,
Well, I'm wondering if they ever read the book. Have you ever read the book, The Body Keeps Score?
that is the fifth time somebody has mentioned that book to me in the last 30
Oh,
days. I got to get this book.
you have got to get this book. I
My
haven't
mom has
been,
been recommending it.
I have not been able to get through the whole book, honestly, because it's so,
I've
there's
heard
some
it's
really
work.
graphic stories. Like, but 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 when someone says, "Oh, it's all in your head," okay, fine. Well, if it is in somebody's head, it ended up in their body because the chemicals and our bodies are so complex. I mean,
And we only know so much.
we only know so much. That's right. So, but yeah, so I'm so glad you found someone that is able to stick with you because the general way it is your labs look great. You're great.
Oh,
Congratulations.
I've
And
heard
I'm
that so
like,
many times.
yay, I'm so glad I'm great. I'm going to go back home and
I
try to
still
make it through the
feel
day.
bad because I think that's the other thing that's so just it messes with your mind is
Yeah.
when somebody tries to convince you that there is nothing wrong, that the way you're feeling right now is healthy. And then there's this horrible pit. You're
I'm
just like,
like,
oh, this is what healthy feels like?
yeah.
Like,
Then,
oh,
but you do start looking around. I'm like, wow. I mean, that person's holding down a full-time job and they have children and they seem to be walking around and not like, I mean, I was just like, I had to take a nap all the time. It's like, okay, I'm going to do something. Now I've got to take a nap. I'm going to do something else. So I'm going to take a nap. And so
mhm.
people might not have known how badly I felt because I took a nap before I saw them.
Yep.
And I was able to kind of, perform, be on. But yeah, it's so good when you have someone who has that empathy.
Well, and it's been, I feel like I've probably talked about this a million times on other episodes. Um, just speaking to other people who either have chronic illnesses or autoimmune illnesses or cancer, or just people who have dealt with health struggles,
Hmm.
whether it's just an injury or an implant illness or something. I
Right.
feel like we, even though everybody's story is so unique and so
Hmm.
different, every time I talk to people, everybody gets it.
Mm.
Whether it's the
Hmm.
mental, emotional aspect, the
Yeah.
physical exhaustion, just the wear and tear on your spirit, and then
Hmm.
that fight. I've
Yeah.
never known people with more fight in them than the people I've spoken to on this podcast. And I
Yeah.
can't get over that. Maybe they're tired or they're chronically ill or they've got pain or they're recovering from some, horrific thing, and they're the bravest people I've ever known.
Mm.
They're the strongest people. They've got so much fight and spirit in them, and I
Mm.
just feel like that's something we all can take away from
Yeah.
our experiences. So
Mm.
I'm just so blessed to hear your story, to hear everyone's stories, and I'm so thrilled to spread awareness about this, because how many women get breast implants or implants of any kind, really? Because I imagine that
Mhm.
it can happen with all sorts of
Any kind of
implants.
implants. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's not just breast implants. And I shared my story, my personal Facebook page, and I had so many messages from people, direct messages saying, "Hey, I've been thinking about it," or "I've never heard of this, but I'm having all these symptoms. I'm wondering if it could be this," and it's amazing how many people need to know. So I'm so grateful that you've given me this opportunity to share about it.
Well, thank you so much. Because we connected through an acquaintance, and
Yes.
just kind of the moment that you and I started talking, you just had this joy and
Mm.
this just positive energy, and I was just like, she's one of us. She's one of our people. She's one of the warriors. She's here to do
Thank
good.
you.
So,
Thank
so
you.
thank you so much. I just have two final questions for you.
Yeah.
Um, so you've been on a journey.
Yeah.
You've had ups, you've had downs. Um, Looking back at how far you've come, how does it feel to be where you are today?
Mm. It feels really, really, really good. I feel hopeful is the word that really comes to mind. I kept telling people it's like I got a new lease on life. And grab a little sip of water. But I really felt like I got a new lease on life. My daughter would laugh. We'd go to the grocery store and I would just be so, like you said, joyful. I'd be like, she's like, you act like you've never been to the grocery store. I'm like, well, I feel like I'm experiencing everything for the first
Yeah.
time again because I'm experiencing things healthy and it's great. I also am just thankful because it is not lost on me that it was just a miracle that my prayer was answered, and I'm very very thankful. So that's where I am now. I do still, like I said, I still have a ways to go. They say that it's 1 to 4 years usually.
Oh,
Usually more
wow.
like one year is a little more common, but to just for your body to just completely heal. So, um, so that yeah. So I've got to be patient, but I am hopeful and thankful.
Awesome. That's excellent to hear. And my last question, and I feel like you've kind of already touched on this. What would you tell somebody who maybe has just thought that they might have breast implant illness, or
Mm.
maybe has just figured out that they do in fact have it? What would you tell them?
Yeah, yeah. So I would say, first of all, journal,
It's so
journal and
helpful. It
pray,
really is.
journal and pray. But I would say go ahead and join that Facebook group I mentioned, the
I'll link it
breast
down below
implant.
too.
Yeah. Oh, great. Perfect. Because I couldn't remember exactly the way it was phrased, but my personal trainer sent that to me. It was such a gift. It was a gift to get support. And in fact, it was a little overwhelming. I'm just going to let you know when I first got on there, it was overwhelming. It was almost like information overload. I actually had to get off and not look at the group for about a month because it was so emotional and upsetting. And I became obsessed. Like I could not stop looking at it. um, but I would say get on that group, and I would say, just go ahead and be brave and have the surgery because and you will find out on the group it's a very specific way to do the surgery. You've got to get the right surgeon because if your surgeon doesn't believe in breast implant illness,
Oh,
they might not get all the capsule out or think it's a priority. I don't know, but get the right surgeon, get on the group, but have the surgery. I have a wonderful, wonderful OBGYN who is very empathetic. She's one of those who will stick with you. But she didn't know a whole lot about this. But when I talked to her about it, she gave me really good advice. And she said, "What is the downside of having the surgery?" And I thought about it and I thought, well, it's big surgery, but there's really not a downside because if you have implants, you really have to have them out every so often. So I'm like, you're going to have a surgery every 5 to 10 years for the rest of your life. I mean, are you going to want to be 80 and go have these implants out? Like,
that's such a good point.
just have the surgery and have them out.
I love
And
well,
be
I love that your advice was both very, very practical and direct, just have
It
the
was
surgery.
very direct.
But also it was be brave. I
Yeah,
love that. I love that so much.
yeah. It's scary. And when I say be brave, it does take some courage because and I was so thankful that my husband was so supportive and he is so supportive. But you read stories about women who don't have support. Maybe they're being talked out of it. But just, it can't hurt. It really can't hurt. I mean, obviously surgery always has risk, but the statistics are out there. People are getting better.
Well,
So
yeah, and that statistic that your doctor gave you about like 90% of his patients got better, I feel like that's pretty unheard of for like such a high success rate.
he's a really good doctor. I mean, he really
He's like,
is.
well, when I do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe so.
I
But
mean,
yeah.
I like I do want a confident doctor, so
Oh,
I can
me
appreciate
too. Yeah,
that.
I would not want a doctor like me where I'm like, close enough.
Maybe.
I think I did that right.
Yeah, that's not really what we want. All
No.
right. Well, Marnie, thank you so, so much for coming on today and sharing your story. Where can people find you online?
Oh, thank you for asking. You can find me on Instagram. It is Meet Me in Isaiah. You can also find me on Facebook, Meet Me in Isaiah. There are actually a few Marnie Clarks. It's kind of funny. There's a Marnie Clark who actually is a breast cancer coach.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That is
So
wild.
that could be really confusing, but just go to meet me in Isaiah and you will find me. So
Awesome. And I'll link those below too. So
thank
if
you.
any of you guys are interested in connecting with Marnie, follow those links that we're going to put down in the description. And I will put the link to that Facebook group as well, because it
Oh,
sounds like
great.
that is an excellent resource for people. So, don't get overwhelmed, but go for the answers in the community when and if you need it. So I like that. But that wraps up this episode of the Warrior Stories podcast. If any of our listeners or viewers are interested in more details about any of our warrior stories, then head on over to hakalife.com/podcast. And if you or someone you know has a story that needs to be shared, if you want to spread awareness about anything, that's what we're here for. So comment down below or shoot us an email at warrior@hakalife.com. Thank you all so much for being here today. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, do all the things, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Marnie.